Hey y'all, Matt here, and this is a different type of video. I told you in the first miracle video that one of the biggest problems that I had when I started reading my Bible and reading about Jesus is I read the miracles and I saw this incredible stuff that Jesus was doing, and I was basically like one of the Pharisees. I can go back now and I can see it in myself, but one of the biggest obstacles that I had was I wanted to demand that God show me a miracle. I said, well, if Jesus is healing these people and doing all these crazy things, why won't he just show me that? And then I'd believe, it'd be that simple. And, that sounds something, like something right out of the Bible that Jesus would, backhand me for. But that's how I was, and I'm sure that there's other people out there like that. And so for years of my journey, I kind of was unsure about miracles. I was always pessimistic about them. You see miracles in the church on TV and these with these televangelists that are out to get money, stuff like that, and it makes you really guarded and hesitant to believe, because you don't know the circumstances around that. And so that was one of my issues. And I went out and if you know me, I'm a Bible nerd to the core. I'm always buying books. I bought books on miracles. I bought like a 2-volume, 1,500-page book on miracles and research about, miracles that had happened, stuff like that. And, the conclusion was I could never disprove it, but at the same time, I could never prove it. And finally, in God's time, he answered this problem that I had, finally, in one of the darkest times of me and my wife's lives. And that's why we're here today. I'm going to tell you a little bit of that story and why I believe miracles are for today. Back 5 years ago, my wife was pregnant with Caden. This is Caden here. She was pregnant with him, had a very, very smooth pregnancy, no issues, no complications. And we got down to the last month. We were about 4 weeks out. We went to the last childbirthing class. Everything was going great. Tore the house apart. She's nesting, getting ready for Caden. And that night we go to bed, and she woke me up at about 2 o'clock in the morning and was like, something's just not right. Something doesn't feel right. To make a long story short, we ended up going to the hospital. I never thought anything was wrong. She can be kind of paranoid sometimes about stuff. If you know her, this is true. But we went to the hospital. They put her on a Doppler. We thought everything was okay, and we were waiting to come back home. And they did an ultrasound. And when they did the ultrasound, I remember I just saw this look like something was wrong on the tech's face. And she left the room. And she came back a couple minutes later, asked a couple questions, and then left again. And I was kind of worried, but I didn't really think anything crazy was wrong. And then a couple minutes later, the team came in, and they basically told us right then, you've had an abruption and a placental abruption. We have to get you to the OR right now. And they literally, as they're telling her this, they're unlocking the wheels on the bed and pushing it down the hall. And I walked down there with them, and while we're on the way down, they're explaining, if they keep Lindsay awake, then you'll be able to go back there for the C-section. If they put her to sleep, you're going to have to wait out here. And so they rush her back in there, and I can see the panicked look on the doctor's faces. I'm an expert in that. I know that look. I've seen it on me, people I've worked with. And so they rush her back to the OR, and I'm left there by myself. And I remember just praying to God, and it wasn't my prayer. It was the prayer that God put in my mouth that time. I don't want to lose my wife, and I don't want to lose my son, but if you take them from me, it's okay, Lord. And that was like my, feet are on holy ground moment. I've never felt God closer than that in my entire life. But to make a long story short, Caden there was a complete detachment of the placenta by the time they had gotten in there. There was no reason why Caden should have been alive at all. They told us that later. He wasn't getting any oxygen, nutrients, anything to keep him alive. he went straight to the NICU. And, you know, we spent 25 days in the NICU. He had all kinds of breathing problems. He was intubated for a while, had to get surfactant multiple times. And it was a horrible experience. But I remember day 2, you know, we were sitting beside his bed in the NICU, and we were just so frustrated with God and the circumstances of, you know, what had happened. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, you know, God gave us a miracle by keeping Caden alive, by keeping my wife alive, who was bleeding internally. She lost a lot of blood. And yet here we are sitting upstairs, and, you know, we've completely missed this miracle because we're discontent with the circumstances that we now have because Caden's still in the hospital. We weren't happy with what God had given us. And, you know, it just completely changed our attitudes, you know, after we recognized that miracle. But God taught me an important lesson through this. You know, it's easy to miss miracles that happen. There's no reason why Caden should be with us today. And he is, and it's because of God's grace and because of the miracle that God gave us. And we almost missed it. You know, I was one of those Pharisees. You know, God healed right in front of me. I saw the C-section. I saw him come out purple and gray. And there's no reason why he should be alive, and he was. And then throughout his first year of his life, Caden had all kinds of breathing problems. I was always having to call out of work, take him to Chapel Hill, take him to doctor's appointments. He had breathing problems. His oxygen was down in the 80s. And we took him. He had a pulmonologist in Chapel Hill, appointment after appointment, and they couldn't figure out why he wasn't breathing right. And we went through that for a year, tested for all kinds of terminal genetic disorders, all kinds of cystic fibrosis, like 3 times. It was a terrifying experience, but our faith that God had built through that first miracle sustained us, and we knew that we could trust in the Lord. And we trusted him through that first year. And it doesn't mean that it wasn't a hard journey, that we didn't, you know, have some arguments with him sometimes, you know, some harsh prayers sometimes, but we trusted him. And I will never forget, just shy of 1 year, we went to a pulmonologist appointment, and he literally told us, he said, I don't know what's wrong with him. I don't know why he's having trouble breathing, but we've tested him for everything that we can think of. We've exhausted everything that we can think of medically. We're just going to have to see what happens. And so it was like God was just waiting for all of the, you know, medical, man-made options to be exhausted, and then finally God stepped in. You know, once all of the other things that we could attribute Caden's healing to were out of the way, God stepped in and healed him. And this is Caden now. Caden's 5 years old. He's a crazy boy. His lungs are built of steel. I don't think he ever gets out of breath. And God has not only gave him a second chance at life from the beginning, but he also healed him at a year old. There's no reason why he should have just been okay. And so, answering my doubt, God gave me 2 miracles. I almost missed the first one because I was one of those Pharisees that was, you know, demanding stuff on my terms. So just keep this in mind. Not all stories end up like this. Not all prayers are answered. We talked about that in the previous video. You know, sometimes God has things for us that are outside of our own will, and we have to trust that in faith. But this is our story, our testimony of why I know that miracles are real. And Caden is a living testimony of that today. Miracles still do happen. They do exist. And I don't need any books for that now. I've seen 2 firsthand. If you want to talk to me further about it, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. But I will catch y'all in the next video. If you've liked this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. What do you say, bud? Like and subscribe. He said like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
There you go, bud. I love you guys. Blessings.